Welcome back to another episode of Infidelity Tales Lab. We're thankful for your continued viewership. Before we begin, tell us, where in the world are you watching from? We love knowing our global reach. Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1, Broken Glass. August Wilson never considered himself lucky until he met Vanessa. The successful architectural firm he built from scratch had consumed his 20s, leaving little room for personal relationships. Then Vanessa Hayes walked into his office, a potential client seeking designs for her new art gallery, and everything changed. Her amber eyes, framed by chestnut hair, captivated him. Her wit and intelligence sealed his fate. Their courtship was swift, passionate. Within a year, they were married, and 9 months later welcomed their daughter, Lily. For 12 years, August believed he had everything: a thriving business, a beautiful wife who had given up her gallery aspirations to raise their family, and Lily, now a perceptive 12-year-old who shared his analytical mind. Then came the crash. August was returning from a business trip when his phone rang. The hospital. Vanessa had been in a serious car accident on the mountain pass outside their lakeside home in Maryland. Her Audi had careened off the road, rolling down an embankment. She'd been found unconscious, barely breathing. For 3 weeks, August barely left her hospital room, sleeping in the uncomfortable chair beside her bed, holding her limp hand. Lily would visit after school, sitting quietly, doing homework, watching her mother's still form. The doctors were cautiously optimistic. Brain activity was present, vital signs stable. But Vanessa remained unresponsive, locked in what they called a persistent vegetative state. Dr. Bennett, the neurologist, had been honest with August. Some patients wake up after days, others after years. Some never do. All we can do is wait. So August waited, running his business remotely, caring for Lily, and visiting Vanessa religiously. Their spacious lake house, once filled with laughter and dinner parties, fell silent. August moved mechanically through his days, a man sleepwalking through his own life. It was during this time that he noticed subtle changes in Lily. His once vibrant daughter grew withdrawn, constantly checking her phone. When questioned, she'd claim it was just a friend from school, but August sensed something more. Then came a phone call from Principal Harlow. Lily had been skipping classes. When confronted, she burst into tears but wouldn't explain. August chalked it up to trauma, her way of processing her mother's condition. He arranged for therapy and tried to be more present despite his own grief. One morning, August was reviewing designs in Vanessa's hospital room when Nurse Dominic entered. "There's been some unusual brain activity overnight," he said, studying the monitors. "It could be nothing, but it might indicate increasing awareness." Hope bloomed in August's chest. That evening, he brought Lily to visit. As August stepped out briefly to speak with Dr. Bennett, something happened in the room he would later replay in his mind countless times. When he returned, Lily's face had drained of color. She clutched her phone with white knuckles, staring at her mother with undisguised fear. "Dad," she whispered, grabbing his arm. "Mom is awake. She's faking it." August frowned. "That's impossible." Wordlessly, Lily handed him her phone. On the screen was a text message conversation with an unknown number. "He still doesn't suspect anything. 3 more weeks, then we're free. The insurance payout will be enough to disappear forever." "What about your daughter?" "Collateral damage. August can have her." August felt his world tilt. He looked at the unconscious form of his wife, then back at the messages. "The timestamp, sent yesterday." "She doesn't know. I have her old phone," Lily whispered. "I found it in her studio when I was looking for her insurance card. The passcode was my birthday." August's mind raced. He looked at Vanessa's heart monitor, the steady rhythm suddenly sinister rather than reassuring. He took Lily's hand and left the hospital immediately. Chapter 2, The Spider's Web. The drive home passed in a blur, Lily's revelation echoing in August's mind. He gripped the steering wheel of his Range Rover until his knuckles turned white, fighting to maintain composure for his daughter's sake. "How long have you known?" he finally asked as they pulled into their driveway overlooking Lake Whitewater. 2 weeks, Lily admitted, staring at her hands. "I wasn't sure at first. I noticed Mom's fingers would sometimes twitch when the nurses weren't looking. Then I found the phone. Inside their home, August settled Lily with hot chocolate before retreating to his study. The evidence lay before him. Screenshots of text messages between Vanessa and someone saved in her contacts as are. August's architectural mind, trained to see patterns, to build structures from nothing, began constructing a different kind of blueprint. One of betrayal. He accessed their financial records, discovering unusual withdrawals from their joint account over the past 6 months. Small enough not to raise immediate alarm, but totaling nearly $50,000. Next, he examined Vanessa's laptop. Her password, previously their anniversary date, had been changed. After several attempts, August leaned back, frustrated. Then, on impulse, he tried Raymond, and the screen unlocked. The name hit him like a physical blow. Raymond Voss, his college roommate and best man at their wedding. The godfather to Lily. It had been Raymond who recommended the insurance policy with the substantial payout in case of death or disability. Raymond, who had visited the hospital nearly as often as August himself, offering support, bringing coffee, checking on Lily. August's search history revealed the final pieces. Searches for remote properties in Costa Rica, information on offshore accounts, and a saved email confirming an appointment with a plastic surgeon in Mexico City for 3 weeks later, scheduled for Vanessa Voss. Cold fury replaced shock. August opened a new document and began to type, methodically listing every detail of their deception. Next, he created a second file, his plan. The following morning, August called Raymond from the hospital parking lot. "How's she doing?" Raymond asked, concern evident in his voice. "No change," August replied, injecting weariness into his tone. "Listen, I need a favor. The insurance company is requesting additional documentation. Could you stop by the office later? I'm buried at the hospital." "Of course, anything you need." August ended the call and entered the hospital, not to visit Vanessa, but to speak with Dr. Bennett. Their conversation was brief but productive. Afterward, he spoke with the hospital's security chief, an ex-military man named Floyd Gresham, who had once hired August's firm to design his cabin. That afternoon, August staged a meeting with his company's board, announcing a temporary leave of absence to focus on family matters. His COO, Naomi Prescott, would assume day-to-day operations. "Are you sure?" Naomi asked afterward, concern evident in her sharp features. They'd worked together for 15 years, and she knew him better than most. "I need time," he said simply. "For Lily. For myself." That night, August tucked his daughter into bed, sitting on the edge of her mattress longer than usual. "We need to talk about what happens next," he said gently. "I've made arrangements for you to stay with Aunt Diana for a while." "Dad, no," Lily protested. "It's not permanent," he promised. "But what I'm about to do, you can't be here for it." Lily studied him with eyes too old for her 12 years. "You're going to hurt them, aren't you?" August considered lying, but respected her too much. "Not physically, but they'll wish I had." Lily nodded slowly. "She doesn't deserve to be my mom anymore." And Raymond, he was supposed to protect our family, not destroy it. August kissed her forehead. "Pack for at least 3 weeks. Diana will meet you at the airport tomorrow." After Lily fell asleep, August descended to his basement workshop. Among the architectural models and design supplies, he retrieved a locked metal case. Inside lay items from his past that even Vanessa didn't know about. Documents from his time working on classified government buildings, security credentials, and specialized equipment. Before becoming an architect, August had served 4 years in the Marine Corps, followed by 3 years contracting with security firms that catered to government installations. His architectural success had buried that chapter of his life, but he had never forgotten the skills he'd acquired. By morning, August Wilson had disappeared, replaced by a man with one purpose: retribution. Chapter 3. Eyes wide open. Raymond Voss adjusted his Italian silk tie in the elevator mirror, ascending to August's office on the 32nd floor. At 42, Raymond had built a respectable career as an insurance broker, though his lifestyle exceeded his legitimate income, a fact hidden from the world through careful accounting and influential clients. When the doors opened, Naomi greeted him coldly. Their mutual dislike was nothing new. Raymond had always sensed she could see through him. "He's waiting for you," she said, leading him to August's corner office overlooking Baltimore Harbor. August sat behind his desk, uncharacteristically disheveled. "Thanks for coming," he said, voice hoarse. "The papers are here." He pushed a folder across the polished mahogany desk. Raymond scanned the documents, standard insurance forms requiring a counter-signature from the policy agent. As he signed, August poured 2 glasses of scotch, sliding one toward his friend. "To better days," August toasted. Raymond's phone buzzed. He glanced down at a text. "Nurse left. Come now." He quickly pocketed the device. "Everything okay?" August asked. "Client emergency," Raymond replied. "Listen, I need to run, but I'll visit Vanessa tonight." "Actually," August said, "I'm having her moved to a private facility in Delaware. The neurologist thinks a specialized treatment might help." Raymond's heart rate accelerated. I didn't realize. Which facility?" "I'll text you the details," August promised. "They're starting her on experimental treatments tomorrow." After Raymond departed, August remained motionless, replaying the flash of panic in the other man's eyes. In the adjacent room, Floyd Gresham removed his headphones. "Got all," the security chief confirmed, patting the recording equipment. "And you were right. He's heading to the hospital now." "And the tracker?" "Active. Planted it when I shook his hand." August nodded. "Let's go." At Johns Hopkins Hospital, August and Floyd watched from a security monitoring station as Raymond entered Vanessa's room. The hidden camera they'd installed that morning captured everything. Raymond locking the door, approaching the bed, leaning close to whisper in Vanessa's ear. Vanessa's eyes fluttered open. "You need to leave," Raymond hissed urgently. "August knows something. He's having you transferred tomorrow for treatments." "Impossible," Vanessa whispered back, fully alert. "He suspects nothing. He mentioned Delaware specifically. That's where we plan to." "Coincidence," she cut him off. "The money's already transferred. 3 more weeks and the insurance claim processes. We're too close to panic now." "What about Lily?" "She's been acting strange." Vanessa's face hardened. "She's a child, and she's August's problem once we're gone." Floyd glanced at August, whose expression remained impassive despite the cruel dismissal of their daughter. "We have everything we need," August said quietly. He texted Dr. Bennett, who entered Vanessa's room moments later, interrupting the conspirators' conversation. Vanessa immediately closed her eyes, resuming her comatose performance. "Mr. Voss," Dr. Bennett said stiffly, "visiting hours are over. I need to examine the patient." Raymond left reluctantly. Once alone with Vanessa, Dr. Bennett administered a sedative to ensure she remained unconscious, for real this time. That evening, August made 2 calls. The first to his personal attorney, Simone Alvarez, instructing her to prepare specific legal documents. The second to Diana, confirming Lily's arrival arrangements. As midnight approached, August drove to a neglected industrial district where a warehouse bore his company's for renovation sign. Inside, he prepared a space containing only the essentials: surveillance equipment, a desk, a cot, and physical evidence of Vanessa and Raymond's betrayal. On the wall hung architectural blueprints, not for buildings, but for the systematic dismantling of 2 lives. "You always told me patience was an architect's greatest virtue," August said to the empty room. "Let's see how patient you are, my love." The first phase of his plan was complete. Vanessa and Raymond believed their scheme was intact, unaware that August had already begun constructing their downfall, brick by carefully laid brick. Chapter 4: Foundations of Fear. 3 days after Lily's departure to Diana's home in Seattle, August's plan accelerated. Vanessa remained in the hospital, now under genuine sedation and constant monitoring by staff loyal to Dr. Bennett. The neurologist had been horrified by August's evidence and agreed to keep Vanessa's true condition confidential while August implemented his strategy. "Legally, I'm on thin ice," Dr. Bennett had admitted. "But what they plan to do to you and your daughter, I couldn't live with myself if I did nothing." Meanwhile, Raymond continued his routine, unaware of the surveillance tracking his every move. August monitored him from the warehouse, logging his patterns. Morning coffee at the same cafe, midday client meetings, evening visits to an upscale apartment building in the Arts District. On the 4th day, August made his first move. He sent an anonymous envelope to Raymond's office containing copies of his text messages with Vanessa. The accompanying note read simply, "Someone knows." That same afternoon, August called Raymond. "The transfer fell through," he explained. "The facility says Vanessa's condition doesn't meet their acceptance criteria." "That's unfortunate," Raymond replied, voice tight. "How are you holding up?" "Managing," August said. "Actually, would you check on the house tomorrow?" "The alarm system triggered. Probably just a power fluctuation, but I can't leave the hospital." "Of course." When Raymond arrived at the lake house the following day, he found everything undisturbed, except for a framed photo on the mantel that hadn't been there before. It showed him and Vanessa embracing on a beach in Cancun, a trip August had supposedly known nothing about. Raymond frantically searched for the photo, but left empty-handed, unaware of the cameras recording his panic. Meanwhile, August visited Western Shore Bank, where he and Vanessa kept their safe deposit box, with Simone Alvarez accompanying him. He opened the box to find it emptied of their emergency cash and several pieces of Vanessa's inherited jewelry. The bank manager confirmed Vanessa had accessed the box 6 weeks earlier. "We'll need that security footage," Simone stated, producing the necessary legal documents. The video revealed Vanessa and Raymond entering together, her laughing as she emptied the box. August watched impassively, adding the footage to his growing arsenal. That night, August replaced every lock on the lake house. The next morning, Raymond received another envelope at his office, this one containing a key with a note. "She trusted you with more than her heart." By the week's end, Raymond was unraveling. He made frantic daily visits to Vanessa, but with a nurse always present, he couldn't communicate freely. His calls to the unknown number on Vanessa's secret phone went unanswered, because August now controlled the device. On Sunday, August implemented the next phase. He texted Raymond from Vanessa's secret phone, plan compromised. "Move everything to secondary location. I'll make contact when safe." Raymond immediately drove to his apartment building, not to his own unit, but to one registered to a shell company August had discovered through financial forensics. Inside, Raymond frantically packed documents and valuables, unaware of Floyd Gresham photographing everything through a telephoto lens from the building opposite. As Raymond loaded his car, a uniformed police officer approached. August watched from nearby as the officer, actually Floyd's former military colleague, engaged Raymond in conversation, examining his driver's license before letting him go with a warning about illegal parking. "We have his alternate identity now," Floyd confirmed later at the warehouse. "Samuel Reed, complete with fake driver's license and credit cards." August nodded. "Track the accounts. I want to know where every penny is hidden." Floyd hesitated. "August, I've seen revenge destroy men. Are you sure about this?" August turned to the evidence wall, now expanded to include Raymond's fake identity documents and financial trails. "This isn't just revenge," he replied. "It's justice. For Lily, for the years they stole from us, for the future they planned to build on our destruction." The next day brought another development. Dr. Bennett called with news that Vanessa was fighting the sedation, becoming increasingly agitated. They couldn't keep her in this state indefinitely without raising questions. "It's time for phase 2, August decided. He instructed Dr. Bennett to reduce Vanessa's sedation, allowing her to wake, but not to leave. Hospital security would ensure she remained in the building while August sprang his next trap. When Vanessa regained consciousness, she found herself facing not August, but Simone Alvarez. "Mrs. Wilson," the attorney began crisply, "I'm here to inform you that your husband has filed for divorce on grounds of abandonment and premeditated fraud." "That's absurd," Vanessa sputtered. "I've been in a coma." "We both know that's not true," Simone replied, sliding forward printouts of the text messages. "What we don't know yet is the full extent of your criminal conspiracy. Until we do, your assets have been frozen by court order." The blood drained from Vanessa's face. "I want a lawyer." "Excellent idea," Simone agreed. "You'll need one." As Simone departed, she nodded to August waiting down the hall. "She's rattled," the attorney confirmed. "Expect a call to Raymond within the hour." August returned to his surveillance post, watching as Vanessa frantically called Raymond. Their conversation, recorded through both the hospital room microphones and Raymond's tapped phone, confirmed everything. He knows, Vanessa hissed. Not everything, but enough. We need to accelerate. The accounts are locked, Raymond responded. I can't access anything in your names. Use the offshore accounts. I'm trying, but something's wrong. The transfers are being declined. August smiled grimly. Floyd's military connections had proven invaluable, flagging the accounts with international banking authorities for suspected terrorism financing. A temporary measure, but enough to paralyze their funds for crucial days. Within hours, Vanessa checked herself out of the hospital against medical advice. August tracked her to Raymond's apartment, where their frantic conversation revealed the final pieces of their plan. The Costa Rican property purchased under false names, the scheduled plastic surgeries, the fake passports awaiting them in Mexico City. We still have options, Raymond insisted. I have cash reserves. We can disappear now. Without the insurance money? That was the whole point. We're talking about survival now, Vanessa. August isn't the pushover you thought. August closed his laptop, having heard enough. The foundation was laid. Now came the walls of their prison. Chapter 5. Structural Collapse. 1 week into August's orchestrated descent into Raymond and Vanessa's lives, they attempted their first escape. August's surveillance tracked them to Baltimore-Washington International Airport, boarding separate flights. Raymond to Miami, Vanessa to Dallas, with connecting flights to Mexico City. They never reached their destinations. As Raymond waited at his gate, 2 TSA agents approached, requesting he follow them to a private room. His fake passport, under the name Samuel Reed, had triggered a security alert. Hours of questioning followed, his luggage thoroughly searched. Though eventually released, he missed his flight and returned to his apartment shaken. Vanessa fared worse. Her flight was diverted to Atlanta due to mechanical issues, where she was detained by customs officials who claimed her passport showed signs of tampering. By the time she returned to Baltimore, Raymond had received another anonymous message. Every exit has been sealed. August watched their growing desperation from his command center, where Floyd monitored their movements and communications. The legal noose tightened simultaneously. Simone had obtained emergency court orders freezing all discovered assets, pending investigation of potential insurance fraud. They're running out of options, Floyd noted, reviewing surveillance footage of Raymond withdrawing cash from an ATM, his fourth that day, staying under the daily limit. That's the point, Auguste replied. When you corner an animal, it reveals its true nature. That evening, Auguste received a call from a number he didn't recognize. He activated the recording equipment before answering. Auguste, Vanessa's voice, once beloved, now sent ice through his veins. We need to talk. About your miraculous recovery, he replied coldly. Or about your plans with Raymond? A pause. So you know, everything. I doubt that, she said, regaining confidence. Let's meet. Just us. We were married for 12 years. Don't I deserve a chance to explain? August considered his next move carefully. The boathouse. Tomorrow. Noon. After ending the call, Floyd looked concerned. It could be a trap. Undoubtedly, August agreed. But not for me. The following day, August arrived at the lakeside boathouse 30 minutes early, having already prepared the space. Hidden cameras and microphones had been installed, recording devices activated. He waited in the small structure where he and Vanessa had once spent summer afternoons, where Lily had learned to swim. Vanessa arrived precisely at noon, alone. She'd taken care with her appearance. Hairstyled, makeup applied, dressed in an outfit August had once complimented. The performance wasn't for his benefit. It was habitual manipulation. Thank you for coming, she began, sitting across from him at the small table. I know how this must look. Do you? August remained expressionless. Enlighten me. Raymond and I. She hesitated. It wasn't planned. It just happened. Like the fake coma? Like the insurance fraud? Like abandoning our daughter? Vanessa's mask slipped momentarily before she recovered. I never meant to hurt Lily. Yet you called her collateral damage. Her eyes widened slightly. Confirmation she recognized her own words. What do you want, August? She asked finally. Money? Is that why you've frozen everything? I want to understand, he replied. When did I lose you? Or was it all a lie from the beginning? The question seemed to catch her off guard. For a moment, genuine emotion crossed her face. The first years were real, she admitted. But you were always working, always building your precious firm. I became another piece of furniture in your perfect house. And Raymond, he saw me, she said simply. He made time for me. August nodded slowly. And the accident? The coma? An opportunity, she replied, cold calculation returning to her eyes. Insurance pays triple for permanent disability. With your power of attorney, I could authorize transfers without suspicion. Eventually, you'd give up hope, move on. Clean, simple. Except for Lily. Vanessa shrugged. You're the better parent anyway. The casual cruelty stunned even August, who thought himself prepared for anything. What now, she asked. You turn us in? Scandal, public humiliation, dragging Lily through it all? Or we make a deal? August leaned forward. What kind of deal? Raymond and I disappear. You get full custody. No messy divorce. No public spectacle. I sign whatever you want. In exchange for unfreeze one offshore account, just one, and give us a head start. August appeared to consider this, then slowly nodded. I'll need account details, and you'll sign the papers today. Relief flooded Vanessa's features. I knew you'd be reasonable. You always were practical. August extracted a document from his briefcase. Divorce papers Simone had prepared, granting him full custody and all assets. Sign, he instructed, offering a pen. Then we'll discuss the account. Vanessa's signature flowed across the paper without hesitation. August folded the document carefully into his briefcase. The account information, she prompted. There's one more thing, August said, removing a second document. A confession. Vanessa's smile vanished. Absolutely not. It's insurance, he explained. If you ever contact Lily or attempt to challenge the divorce, this goes to the police. Her eyes narrowed. You're bluffing. You'd never put Lily through that publicity. Sign it, and we'll never find out. Their standoff lasted nearly a minute before Vanessa snatched the pen, scrawling her name on the confession with barely concealed fury. The account, she demanded. Now, check your phone, August instructed. Her phone chimed with an email notification. She opened it, frowning at the bank statement, showing an active account in the Cayman Islands with a substantial balance. This isn't ours, she said. No, August agreed. It's new, untraceable. Your head start is promised. As Vanessa studied the document, August casually mentioned, Raymond should be receiving similar papers from Simone right now. Once he signs, you're both free to go. Vanessa's head snapped up. You sent someone to Raymond? Of course. The deal includes both of you. She stood abruptly. I need to call him. Why? August asked mildly. Don't you trust him to make the right decision? The question hung in the air as Vanessa hurried from the boathouse, already dialing Raymond's number. August gathered the signed documents and exited unhurriedly. In his car, he called Floyd. Is it done? Raymond signed everything, Floyd confirmed. He didn't even read it after I showed him the bank statement. And the tracker? Active in both phones and vehicles. August started his car. Now we wait for them to betray each other. The trap was set. The walls were closing in. All that remained was the roof to complete their prison. Chapter 6. Load-bearing lies. 2 days after the meetings, Raymond and Vanessa made their move. August tracked them to Baltimore Harbor, where they boarded a private yacht registered to one of Raymond's wealthy clients. Their destination, international waters, then a coastal transfer to a larger vessel bound for Venezuela, a country with no extradition treaty with the United States. Should we stop them? Floyd asked, monitoring their movement from the warehouse. Not yet, August replied. Let them think they've escaped. He opened his laptop to review the latest report from Simone. The divorce was finalized through expedited channels. His connections and Vanessa's signed confession providing leverage for the judge to bypass normal waiting periods. Lily's custody was secured. All assets transferred solely to August's name. But these legal victories were merely the framework for August's true plan. The confession Vanessa had signed contained more than an admission of insurance fraud. It detailed an elaborate scheme involving blackmail and theft of proprietary architectural designs, implicating Raymond as the mastermind. Similarly, Raymond's signed confession painted Vanessa as the manipulative architect who had seduced him into betraying his best friend, claiming she had previously done the same to wealthy men across 3 states. Neither document would ever reach authorities. Their purpose was far more insidious. At precisely 2 p.m., August activated the final phase. An email sent to Vanessa contained Raymond's confession, along with GPS coordinates for a dead drop containing emergency cash if they became separated. A similar email reached Raymond minutes later, with Vanessa's confession and different coordinates. Through satellite tracking, August watched their vessel's progress halt in the Chesapeake Bay. The yacht circled for nearly an hour, evidence of the heated confrontation occurring on board as the conspirators faced their mutual betrayals. By nightfall, the yacht returned to harbor. Surveillance footage showed Raymond disembarking alone, Vanessa nowhere in sight. August's pulse quickened as he dialed Floyd. "She's not with him. Get eyes on the boat immediately." Within the hour, Floyd called back. Coast Guard conducted a random safety inspection. Vanessa wasn't aboard. Raymond claimed she'd changed her mind and taken a tender back to shore earlier. She wouldn't abandon the plan, August mused. Not willingly. The implication hung between them. August made another call, this one to a trusted contact within the Baltimore Police Department. An anonymous tip would point them toward Raymond's yacht, suggesting they bring sonar equipment. While authorities mobilized, August tracked Raymond to his Baltimore apartment, where he frantically packed a single suitcase and emptied his safe. The building's security cameras, accessed through August's connections with a property management company, captured his every desperate move. Raymond's phone rang continuously, calls from Vanessa's phone that went unanswered. August knew the calls weren't actually for Vanessa. They came from a programmed auto dialer he'd set up. Each missed call would increase Raymond's paranoia, especially once he checked the fake bank account August had created. By morning, the promised funds had cleared, showing a balance of $2 million. Raymond immediately attempted a transfer to another account, only to receive an error message. Transaction flagged for security verification. Please contact customer service. The number provided connected to a recording in August's voice. You betrayed the wrong man. You have 24 hours before everything comes to light. Raymond fled the apartment, driving erratically through the city before checking into a motel under his Samuel Reed identity. There, he made a series of increasingly frantic calls to contacts who might provide new documentation, to travel agencies specializing in discreet relocations, even to Vanessa's phone despite believing she had betrayed him. Meanwhile, the police investigation at the harbor intensified. Sonar equipment detected an anomaly near where the yacht had been anchored. Divers prepared to investigate. August watched these developments from his warehouse command center, feeling not satisfaction, but a cold clarity. The structures he'd designed, both physical buildings and this elaborate trap, always followed the same principle. Remove one key support, and everything collapses. That evening, he received the call he'd been waiting for. The police had found a weighted bag containing women's clothing in the bay. No body, but evidence of a potential crime. Raymond, as the yacht's register operator, was wanted for questioning. August made his final move. He sent simultaneous text messages to Raymond and to Vanessa's phone, which he now controlled. To Raymond, they found her. Run or surrender, your choice. To Vanessa's phone, which Raymond would see trying to call, I trusted you with my life. You'll pay for this. Raymond panicked. He abandoned the motel, driving recklessly toward the Canadian border. State troopers, alerted by August's anonymous tip about a fleeing murder suspect, created a roadblock on Interstate 83. Raymond attempted to evade it, lost control of his vehicle, and crashed into a ravine. He survived with minor injuries, but was taken into custody. Among his possessions, police found a blood-stained scarf identified as Vanessa's, planted in his luggage by August during the boathouse meeting. By midnight, news outlets reported Raymond Voss's arrest in connection with the disappearance of Vanessa Wilson, previously thought to be comatose following a car accident. The sensational story spread rapidly. The The best friend, the betrayed husband, the missing wife, the faked coma, the insurance scheme. August watched the media frenzy from his warehouse, expressionless. He closed his laptop, gathered the evidence that would never be needed, and methodically destroyed it all, except for one file containing the real truth, secured for Lily when she was old enough to understand. As dawn broke, August drove to the lake house for the first time in weeks. Inside, he systematically removed every trace of Vanessa: photographs, clothing, personal items, placing them in boxes for storage. Not destruction, but removal. Clinical and complete. In Vanessa's home studio, he paused before her unfinished paintings. Among them stood a family portrait she'd been working on before the accident. August, Vanessa, and Lily on the dock of their lake house, seemingly perfect. He studied it dispassionately before turning it to face the wall. His phone rang. The caller ID showed Dr. Bennett. "It's done," the neurologist said without preamble. "She's been checked in under the name you provided. The facility understands the situation. Will she be comfortable?" August asked. "As much as possible, given the circumstances. The isolation ward is secure. Without additional identification or outside contact, she could remain there indefinitely." August ended the call and gazed out at the lake, where early morning mist obscured the horizon. Vanessa wasn't dead. That would have been too merciful. Instead, she was now the patient she had pretended to be, committed to a private psychiatric facility in western Pennsylvania under a Jane Doe status, courtesy of Dr. Bennett's connections. She would experience the true isolation of being trapped in her own body, surrounded by medical staff who believed her claims of being Vanessa Wilson were delusional. The ultimate irony: her fake coma had become a real prison. With Raymond facing murder charges and Vanessa institutionalized, the second act of August's revenge was complete. The foundation had crumbled, the walls had collapsed, and now the structure of their betrayal lay in ruins. August picked up his phone and dialed Diana's number. It was time to bring Lily home. Chapter 7. Clearing the debris. 3 months after Raymond's arrest, August sat in a sterile conference room at the Maryland State Correctional Facility. Across the table, Raymond, once his closest friend, looked diminished in his orange jumpsuit. His trial for Vanessa's murder was scheduled to begin in 6 weeks. "I didn't kill her," Raymond insisted, desperation evident in his hollow eyes. "You have to believe me, like I believed you with everything else." August replied evenly. "My business, my marriage, my daughter's well-being, I deserve whatever happens to me for that," Raymond admitted. "But I didn't hurt Vanessa. We argued on the boat, yes, but she was alive when I last saw her." August studied him impassively. "The evidence suggests otherwise." "Evidence can be manipulated," Raymond countered. "You know that better than anyone." A subtle acknowledgement passed between them, unspoken recognition that August had orchestrated this downfall with architect's precision. "Why are you here?" Raymond finally asked. August slid a document across the table. "A confession, the real one this time. Sign it, and I'll ensure you serve your sentence in minimum security." Raymond scanned the pages. "This admits everything: the affair, the insurance fraud, the plan to disappear, but not murder. Because you didn't commit that particular crime?" August confirmed. "Not technically." Understanding dawned in Raymond's eyes. "She's alive. This isn't mercy," August clarified. "Sign the confession, serve 15 years for fraud and conspiracy, and walk away with your life. Refuse, and the murder evidence becomes more convincing. And Vanessa is experiencing the consequences of her choices," August replied. "As we all must." Raymond signed without further hesitation. Outside the prison, August met with Simone, who took possession of the confession. "This closes the financial case," she confirmed. "The insurance fraud charges alone carry substantial penalties. And the murder investigation? Without a body, it was always circumstantial. With this confession, prosecutors will accept a plea deal for the financial crimes." She studied him carefully. "You never intended for him to be convicted of murder." "Justice, not vengeance," August replied. "Raymond will lose 15 years, approximately what he and Vanessa attempted to steal from Lily and me." As August drove home, he called Diana, who had remained in Baltimore after bringing Lily back. His sister-in-law, technically no longer family but still firmly in his corner, had been invaluable in helping Lily adjust. "How is she today?" he asked. "Better," Diana replied. "She actually laughed during our movie night. First time I've heard that in months." August felt a weight lift slightly. Lily's emotional recovery had become his primary focus. The trauma of her mother's betrayal and apparent death had left deep scars, requiring careful therapy and constant support. At home, August found Lily sitting on the dock, legs dangling above the water. He joined her silently, respecting her space while making his presence available. "Dad," she said eventually, "is it wrong that I don't miss her more?" The question cut through pretense. August considered his response carefully. "Grief isn't linear," he said, "and it's complicated when the person you're grieving isn't who you thought they were. I keep remembering good things, baking cookies, painting together. Then I remember the texts and feel sick." She looked at him directly. "Did you ever suspect?" "Before the accident?" "No," August admitted. "Your mother was skilled at concealment." "Like you?" Lily asked perceptively. August met his daughter's gaze. At 12, she possessed insight beyond her years, partly inherited, partly forged by trauma. "I've never lied to you," he said, "but there are things I haven't shared because I believe they would cause you more pain." "About Mom?" "Yes." Lily absorbed this. "Someday, I want to know everything. Not now, but someday. When you're ready," August promised, "you'll have the whole truth." They sat in companionable silence as the sun set over the lake. August mentally reviewed his remaining tasks, finalizing Lily's trust fund, restructuring his business to allow more family time, and the quarterly check on Vanessa's continued containment. The foundation of his new life was taking shape, built not on revenge, but on protection and truth. The architect in him recognized that the strongest structures were those designed to weather future storms, not merely survive past ones. That night, August received a call from Floyd Gresham. "There's been an incident at the facility," the security chief reported. "Nothing serious, but she's becoming more insistent about her identity. Started reciting personal details about you and Lily to one of the nurses. Increase monitoring," August instructed. "If necessary, we'll arrange a transfer to the Wyoming location." "August," Floyd said hesitantly, "this can't go on forever. Eventually, someone will listen, investigate. It won't be forever," August assured him. "Just long enough." After ending the call, August opened his safe and removed the file containing the complete truth, evidence of Vanessa's fraud, Raymond's confession, and documentation of August's methodical revenge. Someday this would belong to Lily, allowing her to decide Vanessa's ultimate fate. Until then, August would maintain the illusion that had become reality. Vanessa Wilson had disappeared, presumed dead. Her betrayal had been buried, and her husband, once blindsided by deception, had transformed into the architect of justice. Chapter 8. New Blueprints. 1 year after Vanessa's disappearance, August stood at the front of a small university lecture hall, concluding his guest presentation to architecture students. His firm had not only survived the scandal, but thrived under his renewed focus and Naomi's partnership. They'd recently won the contract for a revolutionary sustainable housing development that had garnered international attention. "Architecture isn't just about buildings," he told the students. "It's about creating spaces that withstand both physical stress and the passage of time. The true test of design is resilience." Among the audience, August noticed a woman with auburn hair observing him intently. As students gathered around him afterward with questions, she waited patiently at the periphery. When the crowd dispersed, she approached. "Powerful words about resilience," she said, from someone who's clearly tested the concept. "Professor Madeleine Rousseau," she continued, offering her hand. "I teach structural engineering here. Your housing project is remarkable. I've been using it as a case study." August shook her hand, experiencing an unexpected moment of connection. "August Wilson, thank you for the invitation to speak. Actually, that was my colleague's doing, but I insisted on attending." Her direct gaze held intelligence and something else, understanding without pity. "Would you be interested in coffee?" I have questions about your cantilever design that weren't covered in the lecture. For the first time in months, August felt something shift within him. Not healing exactly, but movement. I'd like that. Coffee extended to dinner, their conversation flowing from architectural theory to personal philosophy. Madeline had lost her husband to cancer 5 years earlier and raised their son alone while building her academic career. Grief changes your fundamental structure, she observed. You either collapse or rebuild stronger at the broken places. August appreciated her directness. There was no need to maintain facades with someone who recognized the architecture of loss. The following week, he invited her to dinner at his home. Lily, now 13, watched their interaction with cautious optimism. After Madeline departed, his daughter offered her assessment. She's smart, and she doesn't do that annoying head tilt thing when she talks about mom. August smiled. The sympathy tilt. Exactly. Lily considered further. I like that she asks real questions instead of just saying everything will be okay. She understands reconstruction, August said. Are you going to see her again? Would that be all right with you? Lily nodded thoughtfully. Just go slowly. I'm not ready for a new mom. Neither am I, August assured her. But maybe we're ready for a friend. As summer arrived, August maintained his careful monitoring of both Raymond's incarceration and Vanessa's containment. Raymond had adjusted to prison life with surprising adaptation, teaching financial literacy to fellow inmates. August arranged for qualified legal representation to ensure his plea deal remained intact, not from compassion, but principle. Vanessa's situation proved more complex. Her insistence on her true identity had intensified, requiring her transfer to a more remote facility in Wyoming that specialized in delusional disorders. There, under the name Jane Harper, she received treatment for her fixed false belief of being Vanessa Wilson. August received monthly reports from the facility director, a former military psychiatrist who understood the unusual arrangement. The substantial payments from an offshore account, traced to Raymond Voss if investigated, ensured discretion and continued care. She's developed a new painting style, the latest report noted. Quite remarkable. Dark landscapes with distant figures. The art therapist believes it represents progress in accepting her current reality. August stored these reports in the growing file for Lily. The dossier now included newspaper articles about Raymond's conviction, medical evaluations of Vanessa's mental state, and August's own detailed account of events. Neither justification nor confession, but truth. In late July, August finalized plans for the lake house renovation, his first architectural project solely for himself since before his marriage. The design maintained the structure's bones, while reconfiguring spaces that held too many memories. Madeline reviewed his blueprints one evening on the dock, Lily offering occasional input as they refined details. The easy collaboration felt like another form of rebuilding. You've eliminated all the hidden spaces, Madeline observed, noting the open floor plan and transparent wall sections. No place for secrets. Exactly, August confirmed. As summer transitioned to fall, August received an unexpected call from Raymond's attorney. During a routine prison transfer, Raymond had attempted escape. In the ensuing pursuit, he'd sustained critical injuries. Hospital prognosis: unlikely to survive the night. August drove to the hospital alone, unsure of his own motivations. In the ICU, Raymond lay handcuffed to the bed, machines monitoring his failing body. "You came," Raymond whispered, eyes flickering open as August approached. "Yes, I didn't expect that." August studied the man who had once been his closest friend. "Neither did I. Is she really alive?" Raymond asked, voice barely audible. August considered lying, but found no purpose in it. "Yes." Relief smoothed Raymond's pain-creased features. "Good. Not because I care about her anymore, but I didn't want to be a murderer. You are many things, Raymond, but not that." Raymond's breathing grew labored. "Your revenge, it was perfect. The architect's touch. It wasn't revenge," August corrected. "It was justice. Is there a difference? Revenge destroys the avenger. Justice preserves them." Raymond's eyes closed briefly before reopening with effort. "Tell Lily, I'm sorry For everything. I will, August promised, though unsure if he would fulfill it. And August, when does it end? The justice. August considered the question. When the debt is paid. Raymond nodded faintly. Mine is almost settled then. His eyes drifted shut again. The perfect design. You always were the better architect. August remained until Raymond's breathing evened into unconsciousness. He left without witnessing the final moments, knowing the structure of their connection had reached its inevitable conclusion. Raymond died at 3:17 a.m. August received notification while sitting in his study, reviewing the Wyoming facility's latest report on Vanessa. With methodical precision, he updated both files. The architecture of his revenge, no, his justice, had withstood every test. One support beam had now been permanently removed. The question remained whether the overall structure required the second to remain in place. That decision, August determined, would eventually belong to Lily. When she was ready for the whole truth, she would inherit both the knowledge and the power to determine Vanessa's fate. Until then, August would continue building their new life, a design focused not on the past shadows but on the transparent spaces of their future. Chapter 9. The Final Inspection. 5 years after Vanessa's disappearance, August stood in the renovated living room of the lake house, surveying the gathered guests. His firm had just won the prestigious Pritzker Architecture Prize for the Sustainable Community Development, now widely studied as a model for future urban planning. The celebration was intimate. Key team members, close friends, and family. Lily, now 17, moved confidently among the guests, her recent acceptance to Cornell's architecture program a source of quiet pride for August. Diana chatted with colleagues near the fireplace, while Madeline, now a permanent fixture in their lives though they maintained separate residences, discussed structural innovations with Naomi. As conversations flowed around him, August's phone vibrated with a text from Floyd Gresham. Wyoming report arrived. Status unchanged. Call when convenient. August acknowledged the message, but didn't allow it to disturb his present. The Wyoming facility where Vanessa remained had become a distant satellite in his consciousness, monitored but no longer central. Later that evening, as guests departed, Lily joined August on the rebuilt dock extending over the lake. The structure was stronger than its predecessor, designed to withstand harsher weather while appearing deceptively delicate, much like the young woman herself. I want the file, Lily said without preamble. The one you've been keeping. About Mom. Though startled by the timing, August had anticipated this moment. You're sure? I'm leaving for college in 2 months, she replied. I need to know everything before I go, to decide what to do. August studied his daughter's profile, the determined set of her jaw reminiscent of his own. It's comprehensive and difficult. I know. I've had 5 years to prepare. They sat in silence as darkness settled over the water. Finally, August nodded. Tomorrow morning. The following day, August unlocked his office safe and removed the extensive file he'd maintained since the beginning. It contained everything. The original text messages, medical reports, surveillance transcripts, financial records, Raymond's confession, and detailed documentation of August's orchestrated justice. Most importantly, it contained the current location and status of Vanessa Wilson, now known as Jane Harper, at the Wyoming psychiatric facility where she continued to receive treatment for her delusional identity disorder. August placed the file on the table between them in Lily's personal studio, a space he'd included in the lake house renovation for her burgeoning architectural talents. Take whatever time you need, he said. I'll be in my office when you're ready to talk. Hours passed as Lily absorbed the complete truth. August waited, reviewing designs for his next project, a memorial center for victims of fraud and deception. The irony wasn't lost on him. When Lily finally appeared in his doorway, her eyes were clear despite evident tears. You never told me you visited her, she said, holding a report from 2 years earlier documenting August's sole visit to the Wyoming facility. It wasn't relevant to your decision, he replied honestly. What was she like? August considered his response carefully. Diminished, still insisting on her true identity, but her conviction had weakened. The staff reported she'd begun incorporating elements of her Jane Harper identity into her self-perception. A fractured foundation, Lily murmured, the architectural metaphor natural to them both. Yes. Lily settled into the chair across from him. Did she ask about me? She did. I told her you were thriving. Was that the truth? By then, yes. August met his daughter's searching gaze. You survived her betrayal. Then you thrived despite it. Lily nodded, processing this. The file says I have the authority to determine her status once I turn 18. That's correct. The trust one established gives you legal control over the Wyoming arrangement on your 18th birthday. You can maintain it, modify it, or terminate it entirely. And if I terminate it, she will be released. The trust includes provisions for her reintegration, modest housing, basic income, new identification documents. She could rebuild a life, though not with her former identity. Or I could leave her there indefinitely, Lily stated, testing the weight of this power. You could, August acknowledged, though I wouldn't recommend carrying that burden forever. Lily studied him with a perceptiveness that had only sharpened with age. You never intended her punishment to be permanent, did you? Despite everything she did. I intended justice, not eternal damnation, August replied. The specific duration was always meant to be your decision. Because she hurt me most of all. Because you deserved agency in the resolution. Lily fell silent, considering this. Finally, she asked, what would you do if it were solely your decision? After 5 years of reflection, August leaned back in his chair. I would release her, but with conditions. No contact with either of us. Permanent relocation at least 1,000 miles from here. Financial support contingent on continued therapy. Mercy within boundaries, Lily observed. Justice with closure, August corrected. Continuing her confinement serves no purpose beyond vengeance, which corrodes the soul of the avenger. You deserve freedom from that burden. When did you reach this conclusion? Gradually, definitely after Raymond's death. August paused. Building is more fulfilling than destroying, even when destruction is deserved. Lily gathered the file carefully. I need more time to decide. You have until your birthday. No pressure either way. As she turned to leave, she hesitated. Dad, was any of it real? Her love for us? August considered the complexity of this question, one he'd examined countless times himself. I believe the early years were genuine, he said finally, before discontent corrupted her. Some foundations are sound, but can't support what's built upon them. Like your marriage. Yes. Lily nodded, satisfied with this architectural truth, if not comforted by it. 3 months later, August helped move Lily into her Cornell dormitory. As they said goodbye, she pressed an envelope into his hand. My decision, she explained. I've had it drawn up legally, as specified in the trust documents. August didn't open it until he returned home. Inside, he found detailed instructions. Vanessa would be released on Lily's 18th birthday, with the conditions August had suggested, plus one addition, a letter Lily had written explaining her decision. I choose this not because you deserve freedom, the letter concluded, but because I deserve peace. This isn't forgiveness, it's closure. Never contact us. Never attempt to explain or apologize. Consider this mercy your final gift from the family you discarded. August placed the document in his safe, recognition settling within him. His daughter had chosen resilience over resentment, construction over destruction. The architectural principle applied to emotional recovery. 1 month later, on Lily's 18th birthday, August received confirmation that Vanessa had been released from the Wyoming facility. The detailed termination report included her final psychological evaluation, still showing persistent identity confusion, but deemed functional for supervised reintegration. She had been transported to Portland, Oregon, provided with an apartment lease, basic furnishings, and 6 months of financial support. The trust would continue minimal payments contingent on her maintaining therapy and respecting the no-contact order. Her final statement to the facility director had been recorded. Tell them I understand now. The price of betrayal. That evening, August and Lily shared a video call. She from her dormitory, he from his lake house office. It's done, he confirmed. Lily nodded. Good. Now we can both focus on building rather than remembering. The architect's perspective, Auguste noted with pride. I learned from a best, she replied. Even the lessons you taught unconsciously. After their call ended, Auguste walked to the lake's edge. The water reflected moonlight in fractured patterns, broken but beautiful. Like memory, like recovery, like justice served and finally complete. He removed his wedding ring, unworn for years but kept in his safe as a reminder, and studied it one last time before casting it into the deep water. The architect of justice had completed his final inspection. The structure was sound, the foundation secure. The design had withstood every test. August Wilson returned to his home, leaving the past beneath the lake's dark surface, focusing instead on the blueprints of tomorrow, designs built not for retribution, but for life. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen. And I'll see you there. Welcome back to another story on Infidelity Tales Lab. Before we begin, tell us, where in the world are you watching from? Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1, Broken Pieces. Wade Lindsay's eyes opened to sterile white walls and the steady beep of medical equipment. The fluorescent lights seemed to slice through his skull like razor blades, and every breath felt like swallowing shattered glass. A woman with auburn hair and concerned green eyes leaned over him, her hand gently stroking his forehead. Wade? Oh, thank God. You're awake, she whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. I was so scared I'd lost you. Wade tried to speak, but his throat felt like sandpaper. The woman, who was she, quickly brought a cup of water to his lips. As the cool liquid soothed his throat, he studied her face. She was beautiful, probably in her early 30s, with the kind of smile that could light up a room. But when he looked at her, he felt nothing. No recognition, no warmth, no memory. I'm sorry, he managed to croak. Do I know you? The woman's face crumpled, and she gripped his hand tighter. Wait, it's me. It's Brooke, your wife. The word wife should have meant something, should have triggered some flood of memories or emotions. Instead, it landed in his mind like a stone dropping into an empty well. Wade closed his eyes, trying to reach into the darkness where his memories should be, but found nothing but void. Dr. Alejandro McCarty entered the room, clipboard in hand and a professional smile on his weathered face. He'd been Wade's neurologist for the past 3 weeks, though Wade had no memory of those weeks either. How are we feeling, Mr. Lindsay? Dr. McCarty asked, checking the monitors. Like I've been hit by a truck, Wade replied, his voice growing stronger. Close. It was a sedan that ran a red light, the doctor said gently. You've been unconscious for 3 weeks. You suffered severe head trauma, and I'm afraid it's resulted in what we call retrograde amnesia. Your short-term memory formation is intact, but you've lost most of your long-term memories. Brooks squeezed his hand. But memories can come back, right? This isn't permanent. Dr. McCarty's expression was carefully neutral. Sometimes they return, sometimes they don't. The brain is still largely a mystery to us. What's important now is Wade's recovery and helping him rebuild his life. Over the next few days, Brooke rarely left Wade's side. She brought photo albums filled with pictures of their life together. Their wedding day, vacations to beaches and mountains, quiet moments at home. In every picture, they looked happy, in love, like the perfect couple. Brooke would narrate each photo with such detail and emotion that Wade almost believed he could remember. This was our honeymoon in Santorini, she said, pointing to a photo of them on a cliff overlooking azure waters. You said it was the most beautiful place you'd ever seen, and I said it was the second most beautiful, because you were there. Wade studied the photo. The man in the picture looked like him. Same dark hair, same strong jawline, same gray eyes, but it felt like looking at a stranger. Still, he smiled and nodded, not wanting to hurt Brooke's feelings. And this one, she continued, flipping pages, was last Christmas. You insisted on cooking the entire dinner yourself. You burned the turkey, but you were so proud of your stuffing recipe. As the days passed, Wade began to notice something that bothered him, though he couldn't quite put his finger on it. Brooke's stories were detailed, almost rehearsed in their perfection. Every memory she shared painted their marriage in golden tones, without a single argument, disagreement, or moment of real humanity. It was as if she was describing a fairy tale rather than a real relationship. When Wade was finally discharged, Brooke drove him to what she said was their home, a modest two-story house in a quiet suburban neighborhood. The house felt as foreign to him as everything else, but Brooke led him through each room with the enthusiasm of a tour guide. "This is our bedroom," she said, opening the door to a master suite decorated in soft blues and whites. "You picked out that painting above the bed. You said it reminded you of peaceful mornings." Wade looked at the abstract painting, swirls of blue and white that could have been clouds or water. It meant nothing to him, but he nodded appreciatively. As Brooke continued the tour, Wade noticed something odd. Despite this supposedly being their shared home, everything seemed to reflect only one person's taste. The books on the shelves were all romance novels. The movies in their collection were all romantic comedies or dramas. Even the food in the refrigerator seemed tailored to very specific preferences. "Where are my things?" Wade asked as they stood in what Brooke called his home office. Brooke's smile flickered for just a moment. "Your things? My books, my movies, I don't know, hobbies? Surely I had interests, things I collected or enjoyed doing." "Oh," Brooke laughed, but it sounded forced. "You were always so busy with work, you didn't really have time for hobbies. And you always said you prefer my taste in books and movies." Again, something felt off about this explanation, but Wade couldn't grasp why. Maybe it was normal for married couples to share everything, to have one person's preferences dominate. Without his memories, he had no frame of reference. That night, as he lay in the bed that was supposedly his, Wade stared at the ceiling and tried to understand the growing unease in his chest. Brooke slept peacefully beside him, one arm draped across his torso in a gesture that should have felt natural, but instead felt possessive. In the darkness, Wade made a decision. Tomorrow, he would start trying to piece together his life. Not through Brooke's carefully curated stories, but through his own investigation. Something was wrong with the picture she was painting, and he needed to figure out what. Chapter 2. Cracks in the Foundation. Wade's second week home began with a routine that Brooke had carefully established. She would make him breakfast, always the same meal of scrambled eggs, wheat toast, and orange juice, while telling him stories about their life together. Then she would leave for her job at the local bank, kissing him goodbye and reminding him to rest and not overexert himself. But Wade had never been the type to sit idle, even if he couldn't remember that about himself. Something deep in his core told him he was a man of action, and the forced inactivity was driving him crazy. Once Brooke's car disappeared down the street, Wade began his own investigation. He started with the obvious places: desk drawers, closets, anywhere personal items might be stored. What he found only deepened his confusion. In what Brooke called his home office, the desk drawers contained nothing personal, just bills, insurance documents, and bank statements. The closet held clothes in his size, but they all seemed brand new, as if someone had gone shopping specifically to stock a wardrobe for him. In the bedroom, Wade discovered something odd about the photos Brooke had shown him. While she had brought several albums to the hospital, there were no framed photos anywhere in the house. For a couple supposedly so happy and in love, wouldn't they have pictures displayed? He found this strange enough to make a mental note. It was while searching through the hall closet that Wade found the first real clue something was amiss. Behind a stack of linens, his fingers brushed against something metallic. He pulled out a small brass key, tarnished with age and clearly important enough for someone to have hidden it. Wade stared at the key, turning it over in his hands. It was too small for a house or car, but it had the substantial feel of something that opened something important. He slipped it into his pocket and continued his search. Later that afternoon, Wade decided to explore the basement. Brooke hadn't included it in her house tour, dismissing it as just storage and the water heater. But Wade found himself drawn to investigate every corner of what was supposedly his home. The basement was finished but sparsely furnished. A workbench along one wall, some storage boxes, And in the corner, an old roll-top desk that looked out of place among the modern furnishings upstairs. Wade approached the desk and tried to open it, but it was locked. His heart rate quickened as he pulled the brass key from his pocket. It slid into the lock as if it had been made for it, turning with a soft click that seemed to echo in the quiet basement. Inside the desk, Wade found what he'd been unconsciously searching for, evidence of his real life. The pigeonholes contained bills and documents in his handwriting, correspondence that painted a picture of a man very different from the one Brooke had described. There were letters from a lawyer, bank statements from accounts Brooke had never mentioned, and most importantly, a leather-bound journal. Wade's hands trembled as he opened the journal. The handwriting was definitely his. He recognized it instinctively, even if he couldn't remember writing these words. He flipped through pages of entries dating back over 2 years, and what he read made his blood run cold. The early entries described a happy marriage, but as the dates progressed, the tone changed dramatically. Wade read about growing suspicions, about money disappearing from accounts, about Brooke coming home late with increasingly elaborate excuses. The entries painted a picture of a marriage in serious trouble, and a man who was methodically documenting evidence of his wife's deception. Wade flipped to the last entry, dated the day of his accident. His heart pounded as he read his own words. "I'm filing for divorce today. I finally have proof that Brooke has been stealing from my business accounts for months." The private investigator's photos are devastating. She's been having an affair with Clayton Richard, the insurance adjuster who's been handling my company's policies. But it's worse than just an affair. They've been planning to kill me and collect on the life insurance policy Brooke convinced me to increase last year. I found their text messages planning to stage my death as an accident. I'm going to the police tomorrow with everything. Tonight, I'm confronting Brooke one last time. Wade's vision blurred as the full scope of what he was reading hit him. The accident wasn't an accident. It was an assassination attempt. And Brooke, the loving wife who had been caring for him so tenderly, was actually his would-be killer. He flipped through more pages, finding copies of financial documents, photographs, and even recordings that his past self had made. The evidence was overwhelming and methodical. Whatever else he might have lost in the accident, his past self had been smart enough to document everything. Wade sat in the basement for nearly an hour, processing the magnitude of what he'd discovered. Brooke and this Clayton Richard had tried to kill him for insurance money, and when that failed, Brooke had taken advantage of his amnesia to rewrite their history. She was playing the loving wife, while probably still planning to finish what they'd started. The sound of a car in the driveway snapped Wade back to reality. He quickly closed the journal, locked the desk, and pocketed the key. By the time Brooke's voice called out, "Honey, I'm home," Wade was upstairs, sitting on the couch with a cup of coffee, looking every inch the recovering amnesia patient. "How was your day?" Brooke asked, hanging up her coat and moving to kiss his cheek. Wade had to force himself not to recoil from her touch. "Quiet," he said, managing to keep his voice steady. "I'm mostly just rested like you suggested." Brooke smiled, that same bright smile that had seemed so genuine in the hospital. Now, knowing what he knew, Wade could see the calculation behind it, the careful performance of a woman playing a role. "I brought dinner," she said, holding up a bag from a local restaurant. "Your favorite, chicken parmesan from Angelo's." Wade nodded and smiled, but internally he was making plans. He needed to be smart about this. Brooke and Clayton had already tried to kill him once, and they wouldn't hesitate to try again if they discovered he'd regained his memories, or, in this case, discovered the truth about his life. As they ate dinner, Brooke continued her performance, chattering about her day and asking about his recovery. Wade played along, but his mind was racing. He had evidence, but he needed to be strategic about how to use it. He also needed to find out more about Clayton Richard and determine if they were still in contact. That night, as Brooke slept beside him, Wade stared at the ceiling and planned his next moves. The old Wade had been smart enough to gather evidence, but he'd made the mistake of confronting his enemies directly. The new Wade, the one forged by surviving an assassination attempt, would be more careful. He would use Brooke's deception against her. Let her continue to believe she was fooling him while he gathered even more evidence and planned his revenge. She wanted to play games with his memory? Fine. He'd show her what a man with nothing left to lose could accomplish. Chapter 3. The Hunter Becomes the Hunted. Wade spent the next few days perfecting his performance as the loving, recovering husband while secretly planning his investigation. The key was maintaining the delicate balance of seeming grateful for Brooke's care while subtly probing for more information about their life together. "Tell me about our friends," he said one morning over breakfast. "I feel like I should be reaching out to people, letting them know I'm okay." Brooke's fork paused halfway to her mouth. "Well, we've always been very private people, Wade. We mostly kept to ourselves. But surely we had some friends? People from work, neighbors." "You were always so focused on your business," Brooke said, her tone slightly strained. "And after your company had those financial troubles last year, you became quite withdrawn. You said you didn't trust anyone anymore." Wade filed this information away. His past self had apparently discovered financial irregularities, probably the theft Brooke had been committing. "What kind of business did I have?" "A consulting firm. You helped small businesses with their finances and insurance needs." Brooke stood abruptly, beginning to clear the dishes. "But you sold it a few months ago. You said you wanted a fresh start." Another lie. Wade was certain. He needed to find out what had really happened to his business, but he also needed to be careful not to seem too curious too quickly. That afternoon, while Brooke was at work, Wade took a more systematic approach to searching the house. In a box hidden behind Christmas decorations in the basement, he found more evidence of his past life. Business cards, client files, and most importantly, a spare set of keys labeled with addresses he didn't recognize. One address was for what appeared to be a storage unit across town. Wade memorized the number and decided to investigate, but he needed to be careful about timing. Brooke seemed to be monitoring his activities more closely now that he was asking questions. Wade also found something else in the journal that made his blood boil: detailed notes about Clayton Richard. The man wasn't just Brooke's lover, he was a predator with a history. Wade's past self had discovered that Clayton had been involved in at least 3 suspicious insurance claims over the past 5 years, all involving the convenient deaths of spouses with large life insurance policies. The pattern was always the same. Clayton would befriend the target through his work as an insurance adjuster, start an affair with their spouse, and then arrange for an accident. He was a serial killer who used insurance fraud to cover his tracks, and Brooke had fallen right into his web. Or perhaps she'd sought him out deliberately. Wade decided he needed allies, and he found a potential one in an unexpected place. While going through his business files, he discovered numerous references to Jeffrey Melendez, apparently a private investigator his past self had hired. There were several phone numbers listed, and Wade decided to take a risk. Using a prepaid phone he'd bought during a supposed walk around the neighborhood for exercise, Wade called Jeffrey's number. Melendez Investigations, came a gruff voice. "This is Wade Lindsay. I believe you were working for me before my accident." There was a long pause. "Jesus, Wade. I heard about the accident. How are you holding up?" "I have amnesia," Wade said carefully. "I don't remember hiring you, but I found your contact information in my files. What were you investigating for me?" Another pause. "Your wife and Clayton Richard. You suspected they were planning to kill you for insurance money. I'd gathered pretty solid evidence when you had your accident. I tried to contact you in the hospital, but your wife said you weren't taking calls." "I need to see that evidence," Wade said. "Can we meet? Are you sure that's safe?" "If they tried once. They think I don't remember anything. I need to know what you found." Jeffrey agreed to meet at a diner across town the next day. Wade told Brooke he had a doctor's appointment, which wasn't entirely a lie. He did need to see Dr. McCarty for a follow-up. The meeting with Jeffrey Melendez was a revelation. The private investigator was a lean man in his 50s with sharp eyes and the careful mannerisms of someone who'd spent years observing people. He brought a thick file that painted an even more damning picture than Wade's journal had. "Your wife and Clayton Richard have been planning this for 8 months, Jeffrey said, sliding photographs across the table. These show them meeting at various hotels, restaurants, and his apartment. But more importantly, I recorded several of their conversations." Wade listened to audio recordings that made his hands clench into fists. Brooke and Clayton discussing the life insurance policy, debating the best way to stage his death, even laughing about how easy it would be to fool the police into thinking it was an accident. "The sedan that hit you was stolen. Jeffrey continued. Officially unsolved, but I traced it to a chop shop that Clayton has connections with. They meant to kill you, Wade. When that failed and you survived with amnesia, I think they decided to play the long game. What do you mean? Your wife has been working to isolate you, control your environment. She's probably planning to either try again when you're more vulnerable or maybe poison you slowly. Either way, she's not done with you. Wade felt a cold fury building in his chest. Not only had they tried to kill him once, but Brooke was actively planning to finish the job while playing the caring wife. What about my business? Wade asked. Still exists, as far as I know. Your wife told people you sold it, but I couldn't find any record of a sale. I suspect she's been forging your signature and embezzling from your accounts while you've been in the hospital and recovering. Wade paid Jeffrey for his continued services and asked him to keep monitoring Clayton and Brooke while staying off their radar. He also asked Jeffrey to look into his business accounts and find out exactly how much they'd stolen. That evening, Wade returned home with a new sense of purpose. He now had allies and a clearer picture of what he was up against. Brooke greeted him with her usual performance of wifely concern, asking about his doctor's appointment and fussing over whether he was getting enough rest. The doctor says I'm making excellent progress, Wade said, allowing Brooke to take his hand. He thinks my memories might start coming back soon. For just a moment, Wade saw something flicker across Brooke's face. Fear, calculation, anger. It was quickly replaced by her practiced smile, but he'd seen it. That's wonderful, honey, she said, but her grip on his hand had tightened slightly. I can't wait for you to remember our life together. Wade smiled back, but internally he was already planning his next moves. Brooke and Clayton thought they were playing a game where they held all the cards. They were about to discover that Wade Lindsay was not the easy mark they'd assumed him to be. The hunting season was about to begin, and this time, Wade would be the one setting the traps. Chapter 4. Building the Foundation. Wade's transformation from victim to predator began with small, careful steps. Every morning, he maintained his routine of playing the recovering amnesia patient, while Brooke performed her role as the devoted wife. But underneath the surface, he was methodically gathering intelligence and building the foundation for what would become an elaborate revenge plot. During his supposed rest periods, Wade used his prepaid phone to coordinate with Jeffrey Melendez, who had become his eyes and ears in the outside world. The private investigators' reports were painting an increasingly clear picture of the conspiracy against him. I've been tracking their communications, Jeffrey said during one of their clandestine phone calls. Clayton Richard is getting impatient. He's been pressuring Brooke to accelerate the timeline, as he puts it. What does that mean exactly? Wade asked, though he suspected he already knew. They're planning to kill you within the next month. I've intercepted text messages discussing different methods. Poison in your medication, staging another accident, even making it look like a suicide brought on by depression from your memory loss. Wade felt that familiar cold fury building in his chest. These people had not only tried to kill him once, but were casually discussing the best way to finish the job. They talked about ending his life the way most people might discuss what to have for dinner. There's more, Jeffrey continued. I've been looking into Clayton's background like you asked. This guy is a predator in every sense of the word. I found evidence linking him to at least 5 suspicious deaths over the past 7 years, all involving spouses with large insurance policies. He's been operating in different states, always moving before patterns could be established. What about local law enforcement? Detective Eric Massey with the city police is the one who investigated your accident. He's straight arrow, but he closed the case as an unsolved hit and run. Without evidence pointing to Clayton and Brooke, he had no reason to look deeper. Wade made a mental note to potentially bring Detective Massey into his plans later. But first he needed more concrete evidence. What did you find about my business? Jeffrey's voice turned grim. Your wife has been busy. She's been using a forged power of attorney to access your business accounts. She's stolen nearly $200,000 so far, and she's been liquidating assets. She told your clients you had a nervous breakdown and were closing the business. The scope of their betrayal was staggering. They hadn't just tried to kill him. They'd been systematically destroying his life, stealing his money, and ruining his reputation. Wade realized that even if he'd survived the accident with his memory intact, he would have found his entire world dismantled. That evening, Wade decided to test Brooke's reactions by introducing some controlled chaos into her carefully managed narrative. "I've been having strange dreams," he told her over dinner. "Fragments that feel like memories. I dreamed about a man named Clayton last night." Brooke nearly choked on her wine. "Clayton?" "Yes, he was in an office setting. We seem to be having an argument about something. Do you know anyone named Clayton?" Wade watched as Brooke struggled to maintain her composure. Her face went through several micro-expressions: fear, calculation, forced calm, before she managed to respond. "I don't think so," she said finally. "Dreams can be strange when you're recovering from head trauma. Dr. McCarty said you might have random brain activity that feels like memories but isn't real." "Maybe," Wade said, pretending to accept her explanation. "But it felt so real. He seemed angry about something, like I discovered something he didn't want me to know." That night, Wade noticed that Brooke took longer than usual to fall asleep, and she kept checking her phone. He was certain she was communicating with Clayton, probably warning him that Wade might be recovering memories. The next day, while Brooke was at work, Wade made his move to the storage unit. The address led him to a large facility on the outskirts of town, the kind of place where people stored everything from furniture to business inventory. The key from a hidden desk opened Unit 47, and what Wade found inside was like discovering a treasure trove. His past self had been even more thorough than he'd initially realized. The storage unit contained boxes of financial records, additional copies of evidence against Brooke and Clayton, and most importantly, items that revealed who Wade Lindsay really was before the accident. Among the personal effects, Wade found military medals. Apparently, he'd served 2 tours in Afghanistan as an Army Ranger. There were commendations for bravery, leadership, and tactical excellence. Photos showed a younger Wade in desert fatigues, surrounded by men who looked like they'd follow him into hell itself. This discovery explained the combat instincts Wade had been feeling, the sense that he was naturally suited for strategy and warfare. He wasn't just a mild-mannered businessman. He was a trained soldier who understood tactics, survival, and how to eliminate threats. Wade also found evidence of the man he'd become after the military. His consulting business hadn't just been about finances and insurance. He'd specialized in helping businesses protect themselves from fraud and embezzlement. He'd been a hunter of white-collar criminals, someone with both the military training and business acumen to track down people who thought they were too smart to get caught. The irony wasn't lost on him. Brooke and Clayton had targeted someone who was professionally and personally equipped to destroy them. They'd just been lucky enough to catch him off guard once. They wouldn't get a second chance. Wade spent hours in the storage unit, familiarizing himself with the evidence his past self had gathered and adding to his understanding of the conspiracy against him. He found detailed profiles not just of Brooke and Clayton, but of their known associates and previous victims. Most importantly, he found something that made him smile for the first time since waking up in the hospital: a detailed plan for bringing down Clayton Richard that his past self had been developing. It was elaborate, methodical, and designed not just to get justice for Wade, but to expose Clayton's entire operation and save his future victims. Wade realized that his amnesia, while traumatic, had actually given him an unexpected advantage. Brooke and Clayton thought they were dealing with a brain-damaged victim who posed no threat. Instead, they were about to face a combat veteran with a brilliant tactical mind who had intimate knowledge of their plans and access to evidence that could destroy them both. As Wade drove home from the storage unit, he felt a sense of clarity he hadn't experienced since waking up in the hospital. He knew who he was now, not just the name Wade Lindsay, but the man behind that name. He was a protector, a hunter of predators, someone who had dedicated his life to standing between innocent people and those who would harm them. Brooke and Clayton had made a critical error in their assessment. They thought they were dealing with a helpless victim. What they were actually facing was a predator far more dangerous than they could imagine, and he was about to show them exactly what happened to people who try to prey on the innocent. The game was about to change, and Wade intended to write the new rules in his enemy's blood. Chapter 5: The Art of War. Wade's military training began to reassert itself as he developed his strategy. Every successful mission required intelligence, planning, and the element of surprise. He had two of those elements already. Now he needed to maintain the third while systematically gathering more information about his enemy's vulnerabilities. Jeffrey Melendez proved invaluable in this phase of the operation. The private investigator had managed to plant listening devices in Clayton Richard's apartment and office, providing Wade with real-time intelligence about their plans. "They're getting desperate," Jeffrey reported during one of their secure phone calls. "Clayton's been pressuring Brooke to act faster. He's worried that your recovery is progressing too quickly." "What are they planning?" Wade asked. "Poison. Clayton has access to a veterinary sedative through a contact at an animal hospital. The plan is for Brooke to slip it into your medication over the course of a week. It would look like your heart just gave out from the stress of recovery." Wade felt his jaw clench. The casual way they discussed his murder was almost as infuriating as the act itself. "Timeline. They want to start this weekend. Clayton's been telling Brooke that they can't wait any longer. Apparently, he has another job lined up in Phoenix, another lonely spouse with a large insurance policy." Wade made a decision. "I need you to document everything. Every conversation, every meeting, every plan they make. And I need you to contact Detective Eric Massey. Don't tell him about me yet, but start dropping hints about Clayton Richard. Make it seem like you're investigating insurance fraud." "What are you planning, Wade?" "Justice. And I'm going to make sure Clayton never hurts anyone again." That evening, Wade decided to accelerate his own timeline. At dinner, he watched Brooke's performance with new eyes, knowing that she was likely already planning which night to begin poisoning him. The woman sitting across from him, who'd been feeding him lies about their loving marriage, was calmly contemplating his murder. "I've been thinking about our future," Wade said, causing Brooke to look up from her meal. "Our future? Will my memories come back? And the doctor says they will. I want us to take a vacation. Maybe a second honeymoon. We could go somewhere we've never been before." Brooke's smile was perfectly crafted, but Wade could see the calculation behind her eyes. She was probably wondering if she should accelerate the timeline even further. "That sounds wonderful, honey. I was thinking we could invite some friends. You know, the people who are important to us. I feel like I should reconnect with the people in our lives. We've always preferred our privacy," Brooke said, her response coming a little too quickly. "But surely we had some friends? Maybe people from your work or mine." Brooke set down her fork, and Wade noticed a slight tremor in her hand. "Wade, I've been thinking we should talk to Dr. McCarty about increasing your medication. You seem agitated lately. Maybe asking too many questions isn't good for your recovery." There was the first open attempt to drug him. Wade forced himself to look concerned rather than furious. "Do you think so? I just feel like I should be remembering more by now. Memory recovery takes time. We shouldn't rush it." Wade nodded and changed the subject, but internally he was already adjusting his plans. Brooke was moving faster than Jeffrey's intelligence had suggested. Wade needed to be prepared for her to begin the poisoning as early as tomorrow. After Brooke went to bed, Wade carefully searched through the medicine cabinet and found that his prescription bottles had been tampered with. Tiny holes had been drilled in the caps and sealed with clear nail polish, an almost undetectable way to introduce foreign substances into the pills. Wade smiled grimly. His past self's military training was clearly still intact in his muscle memory and instincts. He noticed the tampering without even consciously looking for it. Instead of being angry, he felt a cold, tactical satisfaction. Brooke had just given him another piece of evidence and revealed her timeline. Wade carefully photographed the tampered bottles and sent the images to Jeffrey via encrypted message. Then he replaced his medications with identical-looking vitamins he'd secretly purchased days earlier. If Brooke wanted to play with drugs, she could poison vitamins while Wade remained alert and healthy. The next morning, Wade watched with dark amusement as Brooke carefully prepared his breakfast and medication, ensuring he took his pills. She even watched him swallow them, her face showing what she probably thought was loving concern, but was actually anticipation of his demise. "I think I'll call Dr. McCarty today," Wade said casually. "I want to ask him about adjusting my medication. I've been feeling a bit strange lately." Wade saw panic flicker across Brooke's face. If he called the doctor about feeling strange and then died suddenly, It might raise questions about his medication. Maybe wait a few more days, Brooke suggested. Let's see how you feel by the weekend. You're probably right, Wade agreed, pretending to accept her suggestion. Inside, he was making final preparations for what would happen when she realized the poison wasn't working. That afternoon, while Brooke was at work, Wade made several important phone calls. First, he contacted Jeffrey to initiate the final phase of their plan. Second, he called Detective Eric Massey's direct line. Detective Massey? This is Wade Lindsay. I believe you investigated my hit-and-run accident. Mr. Lindsay, I'm glad to hear you're recovering. How can I help you? I've been having some recovered memories about the accident. I'd like to speak with you about what I remember. But I need to ask, is there somewhere we can meet privately? I'm concerned about my safety. There was a pause. Mr. Lindsay, do you have reason to believe someone might want to harm you? More than reason, detective. I have evidence. They arranged to meet the following morning at the police station. Wade would finally be able to bring law enforcement into his plan, but he wanted to ensure he had overwhelming evidence before making his move. That evening, Wade began the most dangerous phase of his operation. He needed to draw Clayton and Brooke into making a mistake that would expose them completely, and he had just the plan to do it. Brooke, he said over dinner, I think I'm starting to remember things about the accident. Her fork clattered against her plate. Remember things? Yes. I remember a man approaching my car just before the impact. He looked familiar, like someone I'd met before. And I think the accident wasn't an accident. Wade watched as every emotion Brooke had been hiding played across her face in rapid succession. Fear, anger, calculation, and finally, desperation. Wade, you shouldn't try to force memories. Dr. McCarty said that could be dangerous for your recovery. Maybe, Wade said, but I think I should call the police. If someone tried to kill me, they need to know. Brooke excused herself to go to the bathroom, and Wade knew she was contacting Clayton. Phase 1 of his endgame was now in motion. By tomorrow night, either Wade would have his justice, or his enemies would finally succeed in killing him. But Wade Lindsay had not survived 2 tours in Afghanistan and built a successful business by leaving things to chance. He was ready for war. Chapter 6. The trap is set. Wade's phone vibrated with a text from Jeffrey at 2:17 a.m. They're meeting now. Emergency session at Clayton's apartment. Looks like your memory recovery claim has them spooked. Wade smiled in the darkness of his bedroom, careful not to wake Brooke sleeping beside him. Everything was proceeding exactly as he'd planned. By claiming to have recovered memories of the accident, he'd forced his enemies into reactive mode, making them more likely to make mistakes. His military training had taught him that the best way to defeat an enemy was to control the battlefield and dictate the terms of engagement. For months, Brooke and Clayton had controlled the game, believing they held all the advantages. Now Wade was shifting the balance of power. The next morning, Brooke was noticeably on edge. She prepared his breakfast with trembling hands and kept checking her phone obsessively. Wade decided to apply more pressure. I'm definitely calling Detective Massey today, he announced casually while buttering his toast. The memories are getting clearer. I think I can identify the man who approached my car. Brooke's coffee mug slipped from her fingers, shattering on the kitchen floor. Oh, I'm so clumsy, she said, scrambling to clean up the mess. Are you all right? Wade asked with feigned concern. You seem nervous about something. Just worried about you pushing yourself too hard, Brooke replied, but her voice was tight with strain. Maybe we should go away for a few days. A change of scenery might be good for your recovery. Wade recognized this for what it was, an attempt to get him away from potential help and finish him off in isolation. That's a great idea. Where are you thinking? Clayton Richard owns a cabin about 2 hours north of here. He's an old friend from work who's offered to let us use it. There it was, the trap they were trying to set. Wade pretended to consider the offer while internally marveling at their audacity. They were actually going to take him to a location where Clayton would have easy access to eliminate him. That sounds perfect, Wade said. When can we go? Relief flooded Brooke's face. This weekend? I could call him today and make arrangements. Wonderful. I'm looking forward to meeting this Clayton friend of yours. After Brooke left for work, Wade immediately called Jeffrey. They're taking the bait. Brooke wants to take me to Clayton's cabin this weekend. Wade, That's incredibly dangerous. If you're isolated with both of them. It's perfect, Wade interrupted. This way I get them both in one place, away from witnesses, where they'll feel confident enough to reveal their true intentions. How's your surveillance equipment? State of the art. I can have the entire cabin wired for audio and video within hours of them leaving for work. Do it. And make sure Detective Massey is ready. I want him to have real-time access to everything that happens at that cabin. Wade's meeting with Detective Eric Massey that afternoon was crucial to his plan. The detective was a sharp-eyed man in his 40s with a steady demeanor of someone who'd seen enough criminal behavior to recognize it when presented with evidence. Mr. Lindsay, these are serious allegations, Detective Massey said after Wade had presented him with copies of the evidence from his storage unit. If what you're saying is true, we're looking at attempted murder, insurance fraud, and multiple homicides across state lines. I know how it sounds, Wade said. A man with amnesia claiming his loving wife tried to kill him. But the evidence speaks for itself. Detective Massey studied the photographs, audio recordings, and financial documents. This private investigator, Jeffrey Melendez, is he licensed? Fully licensed and bonded. He's prepared to testify to everything he's discovered. And you're certain your wife is planning to try again this weekend? Wade nodded. They think I'm recovering memories that could expose them. They're being forced to act before I can go public with what I know. Detective Massey leaned back in his chair. What exactly are you proposing, Mr. Lindsay? Give me a wire. Let me go to this cabin and get them on record confessing to their crimes. Once you have their confession, you'll have enough evidence to arrest them and investigate Clayton's other victims. It's incredibly dangerous if they suspect you're recording them. Detective, I'm a former Army Ranger. I know how to handle dangerous situations, and they think I'm a brain-damaged invalid who can't remember his own name. The element of surprise is completely on our side. After much discussion, Detective Massey agreed to the plan with strict conditions. Wade would wear a wire, and Jeffrey would maintain surveillance from a nearby position. If anything went wrong, law enforcement would be minutes away. That evening, Wade played his part perfectly as Brooke excitedly told him about her conversation with Clayton regarding the cabin weekend. She painted it as a generous gesture from a caring friend, when Wade knew it was actually Clayton preparing a killing ground. He's so thoughtful, Brooke gushed. He even offered to join us for dinner on Saturday night, to make sure we have everything we need. I'm looking forward to meeting him, Wade said, in minute in ways Brooke couldn't imagine. Friday morning arrived with Wade, feeling the familiar pre-mission calm he remembered from his military days. Every detail had been planned, every contingency considered. Jeffrey had confirmed that the cabin was thoroughly surveilled, and Detective Massey had assured him that backup would be in position. As they drove toward the cabin, Brooke kept up a steady stream of cheerful chatter about the relaxing weekend ahead. Wade responded appropriately while mentally reviewing his plan. By Sunday night, this ordeal would be over. Justice would be served, and Clayton Richards' reign of terror would end. The cabin was exactly what Wade had expected. Isolated, surrounded by dense woods, with only one road in or out. Perfect for someone planning a murder, and equally perfect for ensuring the perpetrators had no escape route when the trap was sprung. It's beautiful, Wade said as they carried their bags inside. Clayton really is generous to let us use it, Brooke replied, but Wade caught her checking her phone for what must have been the 20th time during the drive. As they settled in for the evening, Wade noticed several things that confirmed his suspicions. The cabin had been recently cleaned, thoroughly enough to remove any potential forensic evidence. The kitchen had been stocked with food and supplies, but also with cleaning chemicals that could be used to destroy evidence. Most tellingly, there were no neighbors for miles, and cell phone service was spotty at best. Clayton Richard had chosen his killing ground well, but he'd made one critical error in his planning. He'd underestimated his target. Wade Lindsay had survived Taliban fighters, Afghan warlords, and sophisticated financial criminals. A small-town predator like Clayton Richard was about to discover what happened when the hunter became the hunted. Saturday's dinner would be very interesting indeed. Chapter 7, Checkmate. Saturday afternoon brought with it the kind of crisp autumn air that made everything seem sharper, more defined. Wade stood on the cabin's porch, ostensibly admiring the view while actually surveying the tactical situation. Jeffrey had confirmed via secure text that all surveillance equipment was functioning perfectly, and Detective Massey was positioned with a full tactical team less than 10 minutes away. Brooke spent the day in a state of barely controlled nervous energy, cleaning the already spotless cabin and preparing for Clayton's arrival. Wade watched her performance with a mixture of disgust and professional admiration. She was maintaining her cover even while preparing for his murder. "You seem excited about seeing your friend," Wade observed as Brooke checked her appearance in the mirror for the 5th time. "I just want to make a good impression," she replied. "Clayton means a lot to me, to us. He's been so supportive during your recovery." Wade almost laughed at the absurdity of it. Clayton Richard, the man who tried to kill him and was coming to finish the job, was being presented as a caring friend. At exactly 6 p.m., they heard a car approaching on the gravel road. Wade felt his body automatically shift into combat mode. Heightened awareness, controlled breathing, muscles ready for action. Years of military training couldn't be erased by amnesia. Clayton Richard was not what Wade had expected. Instead of some obvious criminal type, he appeared to be a mild-mannered insurance adjuster in his late 30s. Average height, thinning brown hair, the kind of forgettable face that would blend into any crowd. Wade realized this was probably part of what made him so dangerous. He looked like everyone's helpful neighbor, not a serial killer. "Wait," Clayton said with apparent genuine warmth, extending his hand. "It's so good to finally meet you. Brooke has told me so much about your recovery." Wade shook the hand of the man who tried to kill him, studying Clayton's face for any sign of recognition or suspicion. He saw nothing but carefully crafted concern. "I wish I could say the same," Wade replied with a self-deprecating smile. "The amnesia has been challenging. I can only imagine. But Brooke tells me you're making remarkable progress." As they sat down to dinner, Wade began to understand how Clayton had managed to kill so many people without getting caught. The man was a master manipulator, charming and seemingly sincere. He asked thoughtful questions about Wade's recovery, shared amusing stories about his work in insurance, and treated Brooke with just the right mixture of friendliness and respect. An untrained observer would see nothing suspicious about the interaction. But Wade's military experience had taught him to read micro-expressions, body language, and verbal tells. He noticed how Clayton's eyes would occasionally go cold when he thought no one was looking. He saw the way Brooke and Clayton synchronized their movements when they thought Wade wasn't paying attention. Most tellingly, he observed how both of them kept checking their watches. They were on a timeline. "You know," Wade said as they finished the main course, "I've been having some interesting memory flashes lately." Both Brooke and Clayton went very still. "Really?" Clayton asked, his voice carefully neutral. "What kind of memories?" "The accident, mostly. I'm starting to remember more details about what happened that day." Wade watched as Brooke and Clayton exchanged a quick glance. It was so fast that someone without his training might have missed it, but to Wade it was as obvious as a signal flare. "That's wonderful," Brooke said, but her smile looked forced. "Dr. McCarty said memory recovery was possible." "Yes," Wade continued. "I remember being angry about something before the accident. Something about financial irregularities? And I think I was planning to meet with someone about it." Clayton leaned forward with what appeared to be concern. "You shouldn't force yourself to remember traumatic events, Wade. Sometimes it's better to let sleeping dogs lie." The phrase hit Wade like a physical blow. Jeffrey's surveillance had recorded Clayton using that exact expression when discussing whether to kill Wade quickly or let him live with amnesia. It was a verbal signature, and Clayton had just confirmed his identity as surely as if he'd signed a confession. "Maybe you're right," Wade said, pretending to accept the advice. "It's just frustrating, you know? Feeling like there are important things I should remember." "Memory will come back in its own time," Clayton said. "If it's meant to." The implied threat in that statement was clear to Wade, if not to any casual observer. Clayton was warning him to stop trying to remember or face the consequences. After dinner, Wade excused himself to use the bathroom, giving Brooke and Clayton a chance to confer privately. What they didn't know was that Jeffrey's surveillance equipment was capturing every word. When Wade returned, he found them standing closer together than friends should, and both immediately stepped apart when they saw him. "I was just telling Clayton about your progress," Brooks said quickly. "And I was saying how important it is not to rush these things," Clayton added. Wade nodded agreeably, but internally he was preparing for the endgame. Based on their behavior, he estimated they would make their move within the next hour or two, probably after he'd supposedly gone to bed. "You know what?" Wade said suddenly. "I'm feeling a bit tired. I think I'll turn in early." "Good idea," Brooks said, relief evident in her voice. "Sleep is important for recovery. Will you be joining me soon?" Wade asked his wife. "I'll just help Clayton clean up first." "You go ahead." Wade went through the motions of preparing for bed, but instead of actually sleeping, he positioned himself where he could observe the main room through a crack in the bedroom door. He also activated the small recording device Detective Massey had given him, separate from the cabin surveillance system. What he saw and heard over the next 30 minutes was everything he needed to destroy his enemies completely. "He's getting too close to remembering," Clayton said as soon as he thought Wade was out of earshot. "I know," Brooke replied. "We can't wait any longer. The sedative I brought should work fast. We'll make it look like his heart couldn't handle the stress of recovery. And then we collect the insurance money and disappear. I've already got us new identities arranged." Wade listened as they casually discussed the details of his murder, the disposal of his body, and their plans for spending his life insurance money. They talked about their previous victims, laughing about how easy it had been to fool the police in other jurisdictions. Most damning of all, Clayton bragged about orchestrating Wade's original accident, describing in detail how he'd stolen the car and positioned it to look like a random hit and run. When they finally prepared to enter the bedroom with their syringe full of poison, Wade was ready for them. "Going somewhere?" he asked, sitting up in bed with the lights suddenly blazing. Both Clayton and Brooke froze like deer in headlights, the syringe visible in Clayton's hand. "Wait," Brooke stammered. "You're supposed to be sleeping." "Funny thing about amnesia," Wade said, standing up with the fluid grace of a trained fighter. "Sometimes it's not as complete as people think." Clayton's hand moved toward his jacket, where Wade suspected he kept a backup weapon, but Wade was faster. Years of combat training took over as he launched himself across the room, striking Clayton with precision and force that sent him crashing into the wall. The syringe went flying, and Brooke screamed. "You see," Wade said, standing over Clayton's groaning form, "I remember everything. The embezzlement, the affair, the murder plot. I remember all of it." "That's impossible," Brooke whispered. "No," Wade replied, pulling out his recording device. "What's impossible is that you thought you could get away with it." Just then, the cabin's front door burst open as Detective Massey and his tactical team stormed inside, weapons drawn. "Police! Nobody move!" As Clayton and Brooke were taken into custody, Wade felt a satisfaction deeper than anything he could remember. Justice was about to be served, and he'd been the one to serve it. But his revenge was just beginning. Chapter 8, The Reckoning. The interrogation room at the county police station was stark and unforgiving under fluorescent lights. Wade sat across from Detective Eric Massey, watching through one-way glass as Clayton Richard and Brooke Landry were processed in separate rooms. The recording equipment from the cabin had captured everything. Their confessions, their casual discussion of multiple murders, and their attempt to kill Wade with the syringe. "We've got them cold," Detective Massey said, reviewing the evidence files. "Between your recordings, Jeffrey's surveillance, and the physical evidence, they're looking at multiple life sentences." "What about Clayton's other victims?" Wade asked. "That's where it gets interesting. We've contacted law enforcement in 5 different states. Clayton Richard is wanted in connection with at least 8 suspicious deaths over the past 7 years. Your case is going to break this whole thing wide open." Wade felt a grim satisfaction at the news. His personal quest for justice was becoming something larger, vindication for all of Clayton's victims and their families. "There's something else," Detective Massey continued. "Your wife has been trying to negotiate a plea deal. She claims Clayton manipulated her, that she was just another victim. What's your assessment?" "She's lying. The financial records show she was embezzling from your business accounts months before she ever met Clayton. She sought him out, not the other way around. If anything, She was the one who brought him the opportunity. Wade wasn't surprised. The Brooke who'd played the loving wife in the hospital had been too polished, too calculated to be an innocent manipulated by a predator. She'd been a predator herself. Over the next few days, as the investigation expanded, Wade learned the full scope of what had been done to him. Brooke had been systematically destroying his life for over a year. She'd alienated his business clients with forged communications, claiming he was having psychological problems. She'd emptied his personal accounts and liquidated investments. She'd even gone so far as to cancel his membership at the gym and his subscription services, gradually erasing his social connections and normal activities. The goal had been to make his eventual death seem like the inevitable result of a man whose life was falling apart. Depression, social isolation, financial stress. It would have painted a picture of someone who might take his own life or succumb to an accident. It's actually brilliant in its thoroughness, Jeffrey Melendez observed when they met to discuss the case. If the assassination had worked, or if the amnesia had been permanent, they would have gotten away with a perfect crime. But they made one critical error, Wade replied. What's that? They didn't kill me. Wade's business had survived better than he'd feared. While Brooke had stolen significant amounts of money and damaged some client relationships, his reputation for integrity was strong enough that most clients were willing to continue working with him once they learned the truth about what had happened. More importantly, the evidence he'd gathered before his accident had led to the recovery of most of the stolen funds. Brooke had been transferring money to accounts she'd set up with Clayton, but they hadn't had time to move it offshore before their arrest. 3 weeks after the arrest, Wade received an unexpected visitor. Dr. Alejandro McCarty knocked on his door one evening with an expression of professional curiosity. Wade, I hope you don't mind me stopping by unannounced. I wanted to check on your recovery. Of course, doctor. Come in. As they sat in Wade's living room, Dr. McCarty studied him with the intense focus Wade remembered from the hospital. I have to ask, the doctor said finally, how much of your amnesia was real? Wade considered the question carefully. He'd grown to respect Dr. McCarty during his recovery, and the man deserved an honest answer. The immediate aftermath was real. When I first woke up, I genuinely couldn't remember anything. But the memories started coming back within the first week. Not all at once, but in pieces. And you didn't tell anyone? I told Brooke I was having memory flashes, but I let her think they were just fragments. By the time I found my journal and realized what was really happening, I understood that my amnesia was the only thing keeping me alive. Dr. McCarty nodded slowly. So you used your condition as camouflage while you investigated. Exactly. They thought they were dealing with a helpless victim. I let them continue thinking that while I gathered evidence and planned my response. That was incredibly dangerous. If they discovered your deception, they would have killed me immediately, Wade finished. But doctor, I'm a former Army Ranger. Dangerous situations are nothing new to me. And I had advantages they didn't know about. Your military training. More than that, my business experience hunting white-collar criminals, my connections with people like Jeffrey Melendez, and most importantly, the evidence my past self had already gathered. I wasn't starting from zero. I was continuing an investigation that was already well underway. Dr. McCarty leaned back in his chair. I have to say, Wade, in 20 years of neurology, I've never seen anything quite like this case. What do you mean? Most amnesia patients struggle to rebuild their lives from scratch. You used your condition as a weapon against the people who'd tried to destroy you. It's remarkable. I had good teachers in the Army. We learned that any situation, no matter how bad, could be turned to your advantage if you were smart and patient enough. And Brooke never suspected? Wade smiled grimly. Brooke was so convinced of her own cleverness that she never considered the possibility that her victim might be hunting her. She saw what she expected to see, a brain-damaged man who was dependent on her for everything. What happens now? Now, I rebuild my life, help put Clayton and Brooke away for the rest of theirs, and make sure their other victims get justice. 2 months later, Wade stood in a federal courthouse as Clayton Richard was sentenced to life in prison without parole for his role in 8 confirmed murders across multiple states. Brooke received a sentence of life with the possibility of parole after 25 years for her role in the conspiracy. As he watched his enemies led away in shackles, Wade felt a sense of closure he hadn't expected. The rage that had sustained him through months of planning and revenge was giving way to something else: peace. Justice served, Jeffrey Melendez said, joining Wade on the courthouse steps. More than that, Wade replied. A monster has been stopped. Detective Massey approached them with a satisfied expression. The FBI wants to consult with you on similar cases. Apparently, Clayton wasn't the only insurance adjuster running this kind of scheme. Wade considered the offer. His business was recovering, his health was fully restored, and he had a skill set that could help prevent other families from suffering what he'd endured. Tell them I'm interested, he said. As Wade drove home that evening, he reflected on the journey that had brought him to this moment. He'd lost his memory, nearly lost his life, and discovered that everything he'd believed about his marriage was a lie. But he'd also discovered who he really was beneath all of that: a protector, a seeker of justice, someone who would never stop fighting for what was right. The old Wade Lindsay had been a successful businessman with a quiet life. The new Wade Lindsay was something more, a man who'd been forged in fire and emerged stronger than he'd ever been before. His enemies had tried to erase him from existence. Instead, they'd created their own worst nightmare: a victim who refused to stay dead, and who had both the skills and the determination to bring them to justice. Wade Lindsay was very much alive, and he intended to stay that way. Chapter 9. Phoenix Rising. 6 months after the trial, Wade Lindsay stood in his renovated office, looking out at the city skyline as the sun set behind the mountains. The brass nameplate on his desk read, Lindsay Security Consulting, and the walls were lined with commendations from law enforcement agencies across 3 states. His business had evolved far beyond its original scope. What had started as financial consulting for small businesses had become a specialized operation focused on exposing insurance fraud and protecting potential victims from predators like Clayton Richard. The FBI had hired him as a consultant on 12 similar cases, and his success rate was perfect. Jeffrey Melendez knocked on the open door. Got a minute, boss? Wade smiled at the title. Jeffrey had joined the company full-time after the trial, bringing his investigative skills and street contacts to their growing operation. What VE you got? Wade asked. New case. Phoenix Police Department has a situation that looks familiar. Successful businessman, loving wife, tragic accident, and a very suspicious insurance adjuster who happened to be first on the scene. Wade turned from the window. How long has the victim been in a coma? 2 weeks. Wife is already talking about how she's going to honor his wishes if he doesn't wake up soon. Give me everything you can on the wife and the adjuster. I want to be in Phoenix by tomorrow night. As Jeffrey left to make arrangements, Wade returned to his contemplation of the city below. Each case they solved felt like a victory, not just for the immediate victims, but for everyone who'd suffered at the hands of predators who thought they were too clever to be caught. His phone buzzed with a text from Detective Eric Massey. Clayton Richard found dead in his cell this morning. Apparent suicide, but inmates are saying he was actually killed by other prisoners who found out about his crimes. Thought you'd want to know. Wade stared at the message for a long moment. He'd expected to feel satisfaction at the news of Clayton's death, but instead he felt something more complex, a sense that justice had taken its own course, beyond anything he could have planned or controlled. Another text came in, this one from Dr. Alejandro McCarty. Saw the news about Clayton Richard. How are you handling it? Wade typed back, Justice has many forms, doctor. This was one of them. As he prepared to leave the office, Wade caught his reflection in the window. The man looking back at him was different from the confused patient who'd woken up in a hospital bed 8 months ago. This version was harder, more focused, with eyes that had seen the worst of human nature and refused to look away. The amnesia had been a curse that became a blessing. It had stripped away everything non-essential about his identity and left only the core of who he was: a protector, a hunter of predators, someone who would never stop fighting for justice. His phone rang. The caller ID showed a number he didn't recognize, but the area code was Phoenix. Wade Lindsay. Mr. Lindsay? This is Detective Colleen McPherson with Phoenix PD. We have a case that we think you might be interested in. Jeffrey Melendez already briefed me. I'll be there tomorrow. Thank you. And Mr. Lindsay? The victim's brother wants to thank you personally. He read about what you went through and how you brought down that killer. He said knowing there are people like you out there gives him hope. After ending the call, Wade gathered his files and headed for the door. Another city, another predator, another chance to prevent a family from suffering what he'd endured. As he walked through the lobby of his building, Wade passed the memorial wall he'd installed. Photographs of Clayton Richards' confirmed victims, along with brief descriptions of their lives and the families they'd left behind. 8 people who died because they trusted the wrong person, believed in someone who saw them only as opportunities for profit. At the center of the memorial was a plaque with a simple inscription. To those who thought they could prey on the innocent, the hunters have become the hunted. Wade paused at the memorial as he always did, silently renewing his commitment to the work he'd chosen. Somewhere out there, other predators were targeting other innocent victims, confident that their intelligence and charm would protect them from consequences. They were about to learn differently. Wade Lindsay had died in that car accident 8 months ago. What had emerged from the wreckage was something far more dangerous to those who preyed on the innocent. A man with nothing left to lose and all the skills necessary to make predators pay for their crimes. As he stepped out into the cool evening air, Wade felt the familiar calm that came before mission. Tomorrow he would begin hunting again, tracking another killer who thought they were